We could see the fire on the mountainside from our bedroom.
Scott Hoffer and his entire family of 6 lost their home and everything they owned in the Altadena, California wildfire.
Standing in the street, you could kind of see the glow. We could see it moving on our way.
They shot this video of the area around their home, not knowing what Scott and his wife Yuka might discover as they would eventually reach their street. Scott and Yuka managed to escape from their home with just what they could grab. Scott held out hope that the family home would have been spared. But all hope vanished as they finally got home. This is January 2025. But with grace and good fortune, this beautiful family survived.
I really didn't think that our home was going to be in any danger. We packed the things that I was putting into the car. I have an altar box that I keep, my prayer items, jewelry that Swami gave me, vibhuti that Amma gave me. Intuitively, I took that to the truck first.
Scott's deep personal belief in his spiritual mentors, Sri Satya Sai Baba and Amma Sri Karunamayi, remained in his consciousness from the very start. This is his story. Each of the others in this sprawling family have their own stories. This is an account of tragedy and faith.
Our Sai family, her students, people that she's taught over the years as a performing arts instructor, she's touched a lot of people with her work. They've reciprocated in our time of need. I've been involved in many, many service projects. Some of the most important experiences of my life. I've had some beautiful experiences. We worked in homeless outreach projects in the Midwest, in Indiana, and Cleveland, where we met you. We had a very active youth group involved in community service projects. And to find myself on the other side of the table, that position of needing life's basics, it's been overwhelming, the outpouring of donations and people trying to help us. It's meant the world to us, and it's the reason that we've been able to get by the way that we have without having to worry so much about how we're going to make it all happen.
The complete loss of Scott and Yuka's home was just one of more than 16,000 homes and other structures lost in the sprawling Los Angeles wildfire. Welcome to Souljourns, and to one family's amazing story of beginning all over again in life, absent all of their possessions. This interview was recorded on January 27th, 2025 in Southern California. Scott, I want to first say thank you for agreeing to sit down and talk about this horrific experience that you and your family faced. And I want to ask how Yuka, your wife, and your 4 children.
So we have a Brady bunch of a family. She has 2 boys, and I bring 2 girls into this family blend now, who are identical in age to each other. So we have 2 14-year-olds and 2 11-year-olds, and it's a fun house. It's a lot of house. It's a lot of people, and we got it's a kid home. Fortunately, during the evacuation, our kids were with their other parents, so they did not have to be. They did not have to actively participate in any of the events that happened that evening and the following days. Fortunately, they were safe, far from the harm of the fire. The smoke, covered it was really blanketed the entire city. So no one was really out of safely away from the influence of the fire. It was palpable in the taste of smoke in the air. And so it was something that I think everybody in our area, experienced in one way or another. And being that these are 2 mountain communities that kind of flank both the east and the west parts of Los Angeles, it was visible the flames in the evening to a large amount of people. And to see that happening is you know, to really witness the fire. And I've seen, you know, I've had a few opportunities to see wildfires from a distance, but to witness the encroaching flames the evening that we did was yeah, it's something I wouldn't wish on anyone. It was a horrifyingly frightening experience.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong here, and please add what's significant along the way. But my memory, if it serves me right, is that the actual wildfires started to really take root south of you in Pacific Palisades. And I wonder how you in your community of Altadena and people all over Greater Los Angeles might have thought, well, it's down there. It's not going to come up to where we are. We're probably safe.
Well, Altadena, for those who don't really know, and Pacific Palisades are both communities that are situated in a hillside, foothill kind of area. The mountains to the west of LA, the Santa Monica Mountains, and those hills are, you know, filled with a lot of multi-million-dollar homes where you find probably, you know, more affluent, famous actors, maybe musicians would, you know, be living in the Palisades area. There's ocean views. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. I've had the opportunity to work on a few homes out there as a carpenter and a contractor, and they're just gorgeous works of modern architectural art. Beautiful homes looking over the ocean. Just you know, the kind of thing that you would dream of building if you made it, you know, famous. Altadena, however, is a lot more working class, and the community is again situated in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, which are to the east of Los Angeles. It's a lot more densely populated, more modest homes, a lot more volume of homes. Not that there aren't larger homes as well, but you know, the average, you know, resident of Altadena versus the Palisades are, you might consider a bit more blue collar. There's definitely artists and musicians and places where people have kind of retreated away from the city in a sense, and up to the mountains, or as far as you can kind of get from the city without being in the middle of nowhere. Downtown Los Angeles is 30 minutes away, but Altadena, in its proximity to the mountains, a 10-minute bicycle ride, you're in flowing creeks and waterfalls, just beautiful oak canopies, and it's a little Eden. You know, you wouldn't expect that a place like Los Angeles would have on its back door, but it really is a special place. The fires and the wind were really a combination of just two worst case scenarios happening at the same time. We had a large wind event, the Santa Ana winds, which probably people have heard that name, who have paid attention to the story of the fires. They drive from the east to the west, and you know, carry with it a drier, you know, lower humidity, and you know, historically they're capable of sparking, you know, wildfires. Because of the lower humidity, things are more combustible. Normally, the ocean air flows from the west to the east and carries with it a more humid, you know, breeze. But these winds drive from the desert and blow west. And I'm not a meteorologist, but I've just picked this up casually from being a resident here. The evening before the wildfires, there were really strong winds, which did considerable just wind damage. We found a lot of tree limbs and palm fronds, and our parking structure in our driveway was upturned by the wind. So we spent that day cleaning up, and city workers were kind of dispatched to take care of the streets, and we were all put on notice because of the red flag warning, which I think is given to warn of high fire danger conditions. So people were aware of the danger. I think this was something that in our area we are aware of. In Altadena, it's something that has happened before. I haven't lived through any. I've seen spot fires on the hillside, which were quickly extinguished. But um, during this time, any fire really was going to be capable of covering a lot of ground and spreading quickly because of the winds.
What I heard, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that they were in some areas hurricane strength winds, 100, 102 miles an hour. I mean, I've never been in winds like that before.
I've lived in the Eastern Sierra and been on some ridge lines where I've felt gusts like that, and something that's capable of knocking you backwards at least. And that was probably, the sustained wind forces were enough to, uh, make you have to kind of brace yourself when you stepped from the threshold of your home out into the wind. It was enough to move everything around.
Were you and Yuka and the four children, um, stepchildren of yours and of hers, instantly concerned for your well-being, or did you think, well, there's 10 million people here, the likelihood of us being hit is pretty slim?
Well, we could see the fire on the mountainside from our bedroom window. Standing in the street, you could kind of see the glow of the sky to the east of us. We could see it moving on our way. But our home is situated on a street, many blocks from where you would actually intersect with like a wilderness area. I mean, we're, I can't estimate really accurately, but I would guess, at least a half mile from where the terminus of those foothills into a residential area are. So there were many streets, many blocks of streets that were in between us and the mountainside. So given that, I really didn't think that our home was going to be in any danger. And when we were watching the fire burn, we were really unaware of what it was doing into the eastern portion of Altadena. It was already had caused a lot of structure fires. All of our emergency services were dispatched to one side of town where the fire had originated. But because of those winds, my understanding, it was launching embers, a half mile or more away, and not little embers like you would see in your campfire, but these are golf ball size pieces of flaming debris, and it looked like tracer fire. I mean, the palm trees look like Roman candles, the way that they just launched sparks and embers in the direction of the wind. So we left our home, I would say, between 11 o'clock at night and midnight. Still no evacuation orders had come for our vicinity, but we packed very at the time what I thought was very much an overreaction. The things that I was putting into the car. I have an altar box that I keep, my prayer items, jewelry that Swami gave me, vibhuti that Amma gave me. Those things I have, on a table, which I, grabbed. I opened up my chest. I dropped those things in. I just intuitively, I took that to the truck first. This was during a blackout also, so power was cut to the area. So I was doing this by a headlamp, and really with a bit of panic. The house felt like it was really shaking because of the wind. Um, it wasn't an easy time to like have your wits about, but I'm glad that I grabbed what I did. But we could have packed quite a bit more, but just didn't sense we just never sensed that when we left, everything that we left behind was going to be burned to the ground.
Was there fear? Was there just caution? Was there just hopefulness that, well, we're going to take what we can and be able to return in several hours?
I think it was just a like a dutiful obligation. We felt like we need to take our important things, our documents, our passports, our children's birth certificates, a change of clothes. I gave a call to the kids. What do you want from your bedroom? They, gave us, nominal little things. We grabbed them, but we never thought that that was going to be it.
What
It never.
about the fear?
I think sitting in the house, we felt very casual watching the fire. We left, and then, we left a few vehicles parked in front of our house, but I have also a camper van that I use, it doubles as a work van. And in it, we have a makeshift bed. So, when we left, it was, let's go get a better night's sleep in the van somewhere where the threat of the fire, evacuation, but still not really thinking that we were actually susceptible, like our home was susceptible. We just left thinking, let's just get out of this area, and there's no power. There's eventually we expect we will be ordered to evacuate, but we waited, almost until midnight, and still nothing had come. So we just left wanting to just get a bit more peaceful night's sleep. But Ted, honestly, completely oblivious to the mayhem going on. We then drove the van to the evacuation center at the Pasadena Convention Center, thinking that there we could safely park the vehicle on the street and sleep in the van. And in the morning, if the power was out still, we would find something to do. When we got down to the convention center, we saw it really looked like a triage, disaster unit going on. The smoke was wafting in that direction, and you saw, immediately just droves of displaced people, elderly in wheelchairs getting pushed in, and just a general sense of chaos unfolding. So and this is all during a really hectic windstorm. So just debris is dirt, and you just kind of blinding you anytime you're outside. So we tried not to be outside as much as possible while the fire was burning in our house. Just we didn't want to open the door and get clobbered by something that was falling. So we had the chance to be a little more, to pack a little bit more, and we're really casual about it. But then when we kind of stirred into the city, there was it was a really eerie scene. I don't know how to describe it, but just midnight on a Tuesday evening going on to Wednesday morning, it's just there was so much action, and it felt like a kind of an escape from an escape going on. You just traffic moving in one direction, fire engines and emergency vehicles going the other way, and we didn't want to sleep in the smoke, so we started driving east away from Altadena a few miles. Eventually, just found an empty parking lot in like a strip mall or something, and spent the night in the back of the van and watched through the rear window as the flames moved east into another community, Sierra Madre, and fell asleep maybe 1 a.m. I would guess, and as soon as just kind of light of dawn came, we kind of shook the sleep out of our eyes and said, let's get back to the house. and move our vehicles, get your medicine, grab another armload or two of things, and then let's get out of here. When we returned to Altadena, we were going up in towards our neighborhood, and I would say, 3/4 of a mile from where we live, I could see structure fires in a neighborhood much further down the hill than where we lived, many blocks south. And as we drove up the street, every building to the left and to the right of us was on fire.
Wow.
And we're passing residential streets, and I can look down the side streets in both directions and see every single home was on fire on both sides of the street in both directions. And
this is still
there was,
blocks away from your own home.
yeah, still probably another, maybe half mile more. And there was no one that could respond. That was the thing, as I saw, like a helpless man trying to like spray his house with a garden hose. I mean, one of the last scenes I had of our house was our neighbor watering the roof as we kind of backed out in the van and left. But a garden hose wasn't going to put out that fire. And as we got a bit closer, we could see the businesses on the car wash and the restaurants, my insurance agent, like everybody's, Altadena's I wouldn't say an insular place, but, it is a place where you get to know your neighbors and know the community and the businesses, and their patrons, they have a relationship. They're not just, nameless people that come through and trade money for your product. They ask about your family. They know that you got girls, and how are they doing in school. And this is when you just grab a burger or picking up groceries. These are the kind of relationships. It's a special place that way. And when to see my neighbors and my friends and families homes up in flames while we were trying to get back to ours, we got to the point where we saw it was just a black wall of smoke, and we couldn't you couldn't see it. At 7:30 in the morning looked black as midnight, and flaming tree limbs flying into the road in front of you. We just had to U-turn. There was nothing. There's nothing more we could do.
But at that point, that close to where you lived, with everything around you burning, did either one of you give yourself permission in your heart of hearts to think about, is our house still standing?
I mean, honestly, the heat from the flames on the side of the road was enough of a reminder that whatever we had in that home wasn't worth our safety. It wasn't worth risking each other. It wasn't worth it. And as helpless of a feeling of, that instinct to want to save and be heroic, that, self-preservation wins over all of that. And,
I'm surprised you got as close as you did. I would have thought,
following an emergency vehicle up the road, I went as far as I was comfortable. And, I'm not a hero. I'm not going to do anyone any good. And whatever's in that house is gone. You just, there's nothing. Yeah, it was it's a helpless feeling, but, it's an immediate surrender. It's gone. You have to just say it. It's gone. It's gone.
So the video I saw of you on YouTube, which was very telling and very hard to watch, that must have been shot maybe the next day or later, because you said you could only go so far before
Yeah, we managed to we managed to get back to the house. That time when I think we approached, I think we probably approached when the fire was kind of at its height on our street. Um, we returned later that afternoon, shortly before sunset, to the smoldering remains of our town. And at that time, the sheriff's deputies were, looking for your ID to make sure that you're a resident, and you have business, and um, there was still at that time, down wires. Power had been cut to the town, but there were a lot of, power lines down, um, and things still actively burning when we returned. Trees, and you could still see homes on fire. We got to our house, and Yuka didn't recognize. We walked up to the house, and she didn't recognize it. There's no landmarks anymore. Your neighbors, every neighbor's, there's nothing. There's nothing remains on our street. Not anything. And so walking down the street, you don't know where to even stop. There's nothing that looks familiar. It's a shell. But we got to her car, and we noticed that her wheels, the aluminum rims, melted into puddles, that ran across the street. My neighbor, who was watering his house before we left, his was just as burnt to the ground as ours. It didn't help. I don't think, with that wind, it was more like a furnace, Ted, than it was like just a regular isolated fire. I think it was like I had a large tool shed, and my livelihood is my tools, and I have a big, large steel lock box that I keep most of them in, and the larger ones are kind of just piled on top. When I got back, the aluminum from those tools melted like candle wax all over the steel toolbox. The steel toolbox was intact. It was warped and dirty, but it was hot enough to forge aluminum. And I haven't looked that up to see what it is, but that's incredibly hot to be able to melt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you if, in retrospect, even though you said you had a pretty good job of taking things that you wanted to take, um, was there anything necessarily as important as what you're talking about now? Something else that you might have forgotten to take?
I, you know, the, now the things that you kind of just like store away, the kids' artwork from when they were kids, like little kids, the kindergarten preschool drawings, the Father's Day, little origami neckties that I have, old baby pictures. Yuka's grandmother passed away last year, and she had a kimono that her grandmother had left her. Some, keepsakes like that. Those are the things that we didn't get. I was fortunate in that some of my, because I was in my van, I had more of my personal items.
Well, you mentioned also that you included you had the foresight to quickly pick up, I think you referred to it as your altar box,
Yeah,
which had uh, items in there from, you referred to him as Swami. For those who are watching this, you're referring to Sri Satya Sai Baba of India, who's been a teacher, your teacher and guru for many years, ours too. And then you also interviewed or mentioned rather Amma Sri Karunamayi, whom that's where I met your kids, not on one
yeah.
occasion, but on two occasions, as we would meet in Pasadena, Jody and I.
For those who don't know, Amma has been conducting, her homums at a residence in Pasadena, which was adjacent to Eden Canyon, where the fire originated. And
We went there for many years. What happened to it?
many years, we were there even last spring in April, and I remember Amma saying, during the Homa, to chant this specific prayer, and I can't recall it, but while she was kind of giving instructions to all of us, that this will help to protect your homes and this space from fire. And miraculously, that neighborhood, as close as it was to the source of the fire, there were some losses there, but by and large, that area was spared.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I don't know about the family's home there. I would, just pray that they're all safe, and that their homes, their neighbors' homes are all intact. There's a lot of smoke and residual ash damage also. So
Sure.
it's not like a campfire where you've got, pleasant kind of wood burning aroma. It's more toxins in the air than it is anything.
Did you turn it all to your spiritual path in the midst of all of this going on around you?
Well, honestly, I would say in the midst of it, it was just just kind of a survivalist instinct. But instantly, upon recognizing that we were going, we were of the many people who lost everything. I think it was our faith that really gave us the strength to make any sense of it. I think over time I've given it a lot of thought, and I can see how really lucky and fortunate we are, and how much we were spared, suffering we were spared. Ted, in our neighborhood, 17 people perished in this fire, and we escaped with our lives. All of our loved ones are accounted for. So, in that way, we are very grateful to have been spared from any harm from this fire. It's not I wouldn't say, I've processed it all. It's still something I'm digesting, but it's the spiritual significance of it isn't lost on me. And, my dad's always said, God doesn't do things because they're good, but things become good because God does them. And trying to find the good in this hasn't been that difficult, Ted, honestly, because of the outpouring of support and people who have generously donated to help us get back on our feet. I should really have started there. Is just Yuka and I couldn't be more grateful and thankful to all the people in our lives and our communities, and it's meant the world. It's really carried us through, and our Sai family, her students and people that she's taught over the years as a performing arts instructor. She's touched a lot of people with her work, and they've reciprocated, in our time of need. I've been involved in many service projects through the Sai organization and other organizations as well. But some of the most important experiences of my life, I would say, were probably doing some kind of and this, understanding that selfless service isn't seeking any kind of recognition or reward. And this is, paramount to Swami's teachings on seva. That it isn't an opportunity to get your name recognized, but it is an opportunity for you to commune with the divine. And I've had some beautiful experiences. We worked for some people in southern Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina, numerous homeless outreach projects with young adult groups, and in the Midwest, in Indiana and Cleveland, where we met you. We had a very active youth group involved in community service projects. And I've bagged up many hygiene kits in my time to donate to causes where people didn't have their basic needs, and to find myself on the other side of the table, in that position of needing life's basics,
Yeah.
the things you take for granted in your medicine cabinets and your cupboards, going to donation centers, finding your way again. It's been overwhelming, the amount of just the outpouring of donations and people trying to help us. It's been overwhelming, in a good way. It's meant the world to us, and it's the reason that we've been able to, get by the way that we have, um, without having to worry so much about how we're going to make it all happen. It seems to just keep happening. The questions just get answered, and
Yeah. What was it like for you to feel Sai Baba's presence, or maybe the absence of his presence, that you were not spared, so to speak, and that you lost everything? And yet, on the other hand, he preserved even more than everything for you with your health, your livelihood, and your lives.
I don't think it's cliche to the idea of fire being a starting point, a place of rebirth. And I think, Baba's emphasis on the vibhuti, or the significance of the vibhuti that he uses medicinally on his followers. He manifests in people's homes through this sacred ash, and to call ash sacred almost seems a contradiction of terms, right? Ash is the final, the finality of this material world, and so having literally lost everything and having it all reduced to ashes, the spiritual significance of that maybe isn't fully absorbed and understood, but I am looking to that as a guidepost for myself. It is an opportunity of to start again. It's a clean slate. It is it's a blessing, if I can say so. It's a blessing to be able to have the fertility that the ash, provides for new growth. It won't be long before we see, sprigs of growth on the mountains that burned. It
Yeah.
won't be long before we see, the birds and the little critters that, used to run around, find their way back to these kind of charred remains. Life will go on again, and for me to look backwards with remorse, I think is contrary to the lesson that is here for me to learn, and that is to take these. Also, fire reduces everything, but the sturdiest and the hardest of objects. What remains after a fire is hardened by the fire, and I think it's galvanized our family. I think it's galvanized my relationship with my wife. It's brought us closer together. It's definitely galvanized the community of Altadena. And I think, Palisades could probably say the same thing. I don't live there, so I can't speak for the people of there, but I know that I've come to love my community more as a result of this. And you realize that your community is not the buildings and the structures that are, all around us, homes, businesses. That's not your community. The community is the people, is the families. That's the community. And the spirit of this community, I think, has been strengthened by this. There's a communal loss, and I think there'll be a communal rebirth. But individually, I think that process has to happen too. There needs to be a rebirth within yourself. It's painful. It took several days before, my brain, almost like phantom pains from a limb that, was lost. I think about something that is in the junk drawer that I need to get, or, the shirt that I, want to wear is, in the second drawer, or those connections are still, haven't really been severed in my mind. It still feels a bit like a dream, but really looking at this as an opportunity for rebirth. Incidentally, I'm a home builder, and there's really no greater need right now in our community than people to restore their homes, to get back to the life, bring their families back, to normalize, just get back to normal life again. I think this touches everyone because we all have a home, and it's hard for us to imagine losing that home. And it begs the question: what is a home? And what do I need? And what can I live with, and what can I live without? And some people didn't have as much time or as much opportunity to gather, what we did. Some people literally left with just their clothes, and it's not the stuff that really matters. You realize it's the people that matter. It's the relationships that matter. It's the human connection that matters. And I think what I've seen personally, what I've witnessed, is just a beautiful response of compassion and generosity and true humanity. The true humanity, the practice of human values that that Sai Baba has always taught. You see how a community can really find the means and the resources to take care of everyone simultaneously if it's motivated and it's unified. And if you were to travel down any residential street right now, you'll see donation boxes and pop-up kitchens, any and everything that you could need is being donated and offered. And that's not normal, right? That's not the way our, capitalist, modern society, commodifies everything. And right now, that has been absent in the exchanges between humans. It's not, nobody's looking for to benefit from this. It's been a true compassionate response. And people coming closer together who may not have stopped and talked to each other before. And so I feel like it's a blessing in disguise. I think that I myself can be of a great service to my community, helping people that have no idea how to build a home, show them the ropes, get them started, be of some service to this community. It feels like the right thing to do. It doesn't feel accidental. There were many homes that it seemed like the fire was really indiscriminate, because it would hopscotch a couple of houses and then burn 50 in a row. And so why did that?
Yeah.
Who knows what the reasons why are? But my home was in the path of this fire, and I accept it as my fate. And I'm, as odd as it sounds, I feel grateful for the experience, because it provides the opportunity for me to do some um, some real hard work that wouldn't have come my way otherwise. Maybe over the course of, decades more, I would have lost this or that or something along the way. But to really to face this like stark reality of you have no material possessions. You are a sannyasi in some ways, an ascetic or renunciate, not by choice, but just by default. And so to have that opportunity to start again and to learn those lessons of dematerializing my life, um, is something I'm grateful for, frankly.
You talked about communities several times in very meaningful ways during our discussion. And you've talked about our teacher, Sai Baba. And for those who don't know who he is, he's the gentleman looming over my shoulder right here. Jody and I have got to know him personally, as you have on many occasions. And what he's done with his followers around the world, there are many great teachers with many great gatherings and communities, is to instill in Sai Baba followers the need to pitch in, roll up your sleeves, and aid anybody who needs the comfort and support of a catastrophe. And I'm hoping the Sai Baba community in Los Angeles um, showed up, figuratively speaking,
Definitely.
on at your door, which you don't have anymore, in an effort to help give what you might need in the moment.
Absolutely. The different folks from the site, we really consider each other a family. And uh, once I think, word uh, kind of was passed around, I think because of your post, Ted, a lot of people that I'm not normally in conversation with, came to know what our situation is. And I got calls from my Psy brothers and my Psy sisters, folks that, we were of those people. We rolled up our sleeves and got to work. And I have to say, it's an odd thing to be on the other side of that equation. But one thing was said to me, because it was something that gave me pause. Like, how do I accept help in a way that doesn't? How do I accept help the right way? I think there's a right way to do things, and I can't say what the wrong way to accept help is, but I want to feel like what I'm receiving is done in the right way. My spirit, needs to be, balanced with that. It's not Christmas time, right? These aren't gifts like in that way. These are something else. And one of my Psy brothers said, we are all fingers on the same hand, and what happens to one happens to us all. Your suffering is my suffering. And I thought that if I were in their shoes and they were in mine, that my response would likely be much like theirs are. And I would want to alleviate what pain that they were going through in whatever way I could. And even though people aren't, in my midst, they're not in my neighborhood, they've been very supportive of our family, and really have made us feel the flow and the grace of God's love and mercy.
That's so great. I mean, it's really wonderful. And Sai devotees, as you are, coming to the aid and support of others in need with your hygiene packets that you make with all sorts of services provided. The word is used to explain it. It's called seva, which is selfless service. And it's not for any grand recognition on any devotee's part, but to come closer to God. And I think that is transferred to the person you're helping as well. And now you've got it from both perspectives. I can only imagine, Scott, where this may lead you.
I think in the act of giving, it was, always emphasized that you need to recognize the recipient as, as the Lord dwelling within, and it is your communion with the divine spirit. I think on the other side of that is, to be the recipient of that is to be someone who that is fully aware that this is the overflow of God's bounty, and you are just as deserving as anyone. God's love and mercy is indiscriminate that way, and to feel the gratitude and the appreciation is really recognizing that God is the doer of all of this, and this is His way of comforting us, and to receive it in such a way that we recognize its source. I think it's been, that's what's made this a spiritual experience for us. It's been overwhelming. As difficult as it is to go through what we have, that has been returned. The I don't know how to say it. Equally, whatever our pain was, it's we've been comforted, many times more. I think the quote is, you shed one tear, I'll wipe 1,000 from your eyes, and that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah.
Uh,
You and
that
your wife.
there's an overreaction almost on the Lord's part, and in terms of seeing to it that our needs are being met, and that we're being taken care of.
You can have a tremendous responsibility simply to take care of self, of each other, and of yourself. Plus these four beautiful children. I had the pleasure of meeting your two wonderful daughters. I haven't seen or met your other kids yet, your stepchildren, but how are they coming through this? Has it even begun to dawn on them the size of this catastrophe?
I think, like most people, they've seen image of it on their phone before they got to see any of it in person. It's been talked about in school. The day that we ultimately lost our home, we both visited the kids in their other houses and spent some time there, and just, assured them that, we're okay, our pets are okay. We're everything's, going to be all right. For them, I really am so happy that they did not have to be a part of that evacuation. I know many families whose kids were not spared that they had to kind of experience that. It was terrifying for an adult. I can't imagine how a younger person would deal with that. But so I'm thankful that our kids haven't had to process that. But then again, they lost all their stuff. they they don't get to say goodbye to any of it. It's just gone, and we've done our best to try to, kids. Fortunately, our kids like to go to thrift stores. They like to find things for a budget. So, they enjoy getting to pick out some new threads. They, enjoy it's really gifts that they've been giving. And in some ways, it's like Christmas every time they're here, because we've got more new things for them. We've got clothes. Everybody's got, a new wardrobe. Everybody's revamped their styles. And slowly we're going to try to, a friend of Yuka's has offered to bring the kids to Disneyland for free admission. And, we don't have the means normally to go to Disneyland. So it's a huge thing for us to be able to take our kids to Disneyland. And not that we're fishing for amusement parks,
Uh,
but it's something I'm glad that we can do for the kids to help just ease whatever this transition. I don't know what this is like. I don't have experience in uh starting from scratch like this, and then trying to be a buffer for the kids. So we are doing our best, and I think everybody's trying their hardest to be as gentle with each other and compassionate and just kind, and family values, and being flexible. I have to say, I love how flexible the kids are. They are really malleable and adaptable, and are very, very adept at just rolling with things. So they don't have their room set up exactly how they want, and they're not complaining about it. They're still happy that we get to convene as a family, and we're not dispersed around the city. But we still have a family unit that we can be together, and a table to sit at. And yeah.
Talk about that for 1 second too, because we mentioned it at the beginning before we started to record. You do have friends who love you, and they sometimes might be just casual friends who step forward and say, "Well, I've got a rental house that's unoccupied right now. How about staying there?" And isn't that what happened for you?
Yeah, the family who we're staying with, they are actually the parents of one of my youngest daughter's classmates. And immediately after leaving the vicinity of Altadena, that morning we lost our homes. We just the whole town and adjacent towns, neighborhoods were all kind of shut down, and no power because of susceptibility of more fires starting. So we kind of wandered quite a ways looking for just a place to park ourselves that morning, get some coffee, just just sit and just gather our wits. And all the parks were closed, and we ended up just kind of wandering into a neighborhood, and I recognized the houses my daughter's classmates, whose house I've dropped off for play dates many times. So we just knocked on the door, and like two fire evacuees, kind of shaken, and they kindly took us in. Gave us tea, just let us get our wits together and make a plan for ourselves. And it's that same family who's offered this house, and it was just happenstance that we showed up at their door. They didn't invite us over. We didn't announce our arrival, other than just, literally showing up on their doorstep and saying, "Hey, can we sit down for a little while?" And, I think, the formalities, kind of fall by the wayside in situations like this. It really becomes humans connecting and giving to humans again. And everybody is part of this human family. And I think anybody, we probably could have knocked on anyone's door and been able to find, a little relief. But thank God that we, knocked on theirs. And, we are so lucky, Ted. I can't tell you. There's still people sleeping in evacuation shelters, many hundreds of people that still haven't been able to make it back to their homes. The count that I heard was something in the order of almost 10,000 structures were destroyed. And not all of those are residences, but, many, many, many thousands of them are. Los Angeles has already a difficult time housing all of its people, and introducing all of these newly displaced people into a rental market it's highly challenging for our city. So many people don't have anywhere to go still. I think it's going to create, another stress on the housing market, it's going to have ripple effects on everyone. But as we speak, utility companies are in the neighborhoods trying to restore services for the homes that weren't destroyed. Insurance companies and adjusters are in the neighborhood trying to authorize the cleaning and whatever kind of services are needed to get people back in the home. So, but it's going to take a long time to get some 7,000 families in Altadena alone back into suitable housing. It's going to be a long process.
Yeah, you said 10,000 units, mostly houses, some churches, schools, drugstores, buildings of all
Yeah.
types. Figure I've been hearing the last couple of days since down here in San Diego, we've had a couple of serious fires, actually,
Yes. Yeah.
and quite a few new ones in the greater Los Angeles area. First rains in about a year, finally helping. But I hope there's a way through this for all the people that you're thinking of, in addition to your own family. And as we start to wrap this up, since time's sort of ending on our
Yeah.
Zoom call here, what about points that I wasn't able to touch on because I wasn't there with you, witnessing everything going on? And are you leaving out anything that you'd like to share now? If you think about it for a second, what about schools? Jody's asking me, are
Yeah.
they able to go to schooling of some kind?
So I know that in the Palisades, a large high school burned down. I know that in our neighborhood, there's multiple schools that were destroyed. Um, I think everybody has the options of doing Zoom schools again, but I think there's a lot of fatigue from that already. So they're going to be trying to absorb a lot of these kids as they stage rebuilding schools. Yeah, it's not just homes that were lost, but the stores, the banks, the all of the services that you need to make a community, or our post office, for example. um, all whatever mail was in there is gone as well. So it's um,
Boy, yeah, I'm glad I'm asking this because there's probably an endless number of other areas in which something like this affects people's lives. You're a businessman. Your tools literally went up in flames or melted, one or the other. Yet somehow I see you back on the road helping people as you learn to help yourselves by building 50 houses down the
well,
road.
I'll do as much as I can. I've been fortunate that my name's been passed around in Altadena in our neighborhood, and we try to do right by people when we're doing work. I know not all contractors have that kind of reputation, but I consider someone's home as something sacred, and many of the homes that burned down were places that I've had intimate relationships with those homes as well, and those families. And so I reached out to everybody that I could think of, whether I just patched your fence or painted your whatever, or built you a new anything. I reached out to everybody, just let them know that I'm happy to be whatever kind of resource that I can for you. Very few people have experience nowadays in like a home building process, and these aren't homes that are damaged. These are homes that have to be started from scratch, and um, it's it's going to need to be done gently. This isn't an opportunity to cash in, but more so an opportunity to restore people's most sacred, trusted, things back to themselves, their home. Um, yeah, nobody wanted this to happen, so it's all going to be a challenge to maintain, um, people's spirits, while this happens, because constructing anything that's going to last is difficult. Constructing a new home, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces to that. So trying to help someone to do that, empower them, in a sense. Hopefully, myself and some of the other guys that I work with are able to spread our efforts around the community as much as we can.
Well, we love you, and I don't expect that people are going to be getting beyond the shock of this too quickly. I'm concerned also about the stress and the emotional well-being for everybody involved, from the four children and Yuka and yourself and all your friends and neighbors. So thank you very much for agreeing to sit down and
I
talk.
appreciate the opportunity. Our gratitude for to everyone who's reached out to us, and it means the world. It means more than I can really say to hear from everyone, and all the ways that people have supported us.
Well, take care. God bless you all. And as one Sai Baba follower to another says, Sai Ram, and
So
may the best unfold. Bye
thanks,
bye.
Ted. Take care.